Counted on that. I could have counted on that. That was all right. Next week. Go ahead.
Most encouraging things to you preseason, where you emerge from preseason feeling better about your ability to do this, whether it's Minka, whether it's defensive tackles, whether it's Robert Quinn. What to you was a couple of most encouraging signs?
I was encouraged by honestly by the way we progressed through preseason. Wasn't necessarily happy with how we started, but I thought we kind of got better as we went through week to week to week, really at all levels, So, I thought every week sort of something that we were either emphasizing or looking to work on kind of showed up, or a player that we needed to sort of start making some plays or sort of showing that progress on an individual level. That happened. Obviously some of the younger players that were playing a little bit more, started getting some action between, Minka and even Raekwon and Bake and those guys. And, obviously from a new addition standpoint, Robert and obviously some of the production he had. So I was pleased with, again, sort of the progression, that I felt we got better every week throughout the preseason. And that's kind of a goal, obviously, and hope we keep on that trend.
You don't see a ton of mobile quarterbacks, but obviously you have one this week.
Mm-hmm.
What lessons, I guess?
See one every week in practice, man.
That's true. In a game, I meant.
Okay.
What lessons of the last 2 years from mobile quarterbacks you faced do you think you're going to take going forward?
From the last few years, I don't know. We've had, say mixed success with some of those guys. I think for us the biggest thing is going to be, obviously having a sort of committed rush plan on how we're attacking him, on third downs and those sort of situations. A little bit about getting the right athletes on the field and the type of players that we're using to sort of work him in. I mean, at the end of the day, if you only have 4 people rushing the quarterback and they have 5 offensive linemen, there's some space in there, and there's ways. So we have to try to utilize ways of dictating how we're leaving some lanes open or how we're closing some windows and those sort of things. And I think one thing that sometimes you get. One thing I'll say I'm cautious of is, I think one of the mentalities is all like, keep him in the pocket and just sort of, mush rush and kind of just squeeze it down sometimes. And a lot of times, those guys get sticky on blocks, and then when he starts moving, they can't get off, to help chase or close things down. So, I think I'm a little cautious of just telling those guys just stand there and try to sort of 2-gap and fight it a little bit. So we're going to try to do some things. We're still attacking, and that's our mentality, but we have to be able to dictate what windows are open and how we're closing them, and who, we're always going to have a set of eyes on the quarterback from the back end as well, whether it's just in zone coverage or, spying and those sort of things. So we'll have some different pitches, hopefully, and have some success.
Is there any concern on run defense? Yeah, I know there's concern for everything. On run defense, that your defensive line is fast, quick, but smaller, and now behind them you've got young linebackers that might not always be in the right place.
They better be in the right place. No, I don't think so. Our scheme is designed on attacking and with those guys up front. In terms of size-wise, we like to build our power with speed and knock guys back with explosion as opposed to just raw size. Obviously, the bigger you can get and the more explosive you are, that's even better for us. So, we're trying to set edges in the run game and knock things back. And the complement of the front line and the linebackers is that, if those guys are climbing on our linebackers to the second level, then our front line, if they're getting off the way they're supposed to, should be able to make plays. And now if they're concerned about, stopping our D-line the way we're getting off the ball, then our linebackers better trigger and make plays. So, obviously, that's something we've been working on in terms of just those guys working together and having younger linebackers that just, haven't played in that system before. But I feel pretty confident in our ability to play the run this week.
How do you think the relationship between Jerome and Raekwon in college maybe helps them?
Us very much so. There's you can tell there's a relationship there, and they're different personalities for sure. I'm sure you guys have spent some time with both of them. Raekwon's a little more serious than Bake is, and so, Raekwon's kind of like his big brother. But I think it helps Raekwon having someone to talk to and he's comfortable with out there and those sort of things. They have a good kind of back and forth, and Bake's always trying to sort of loosen Raekwon up, and Raekwon's always trying to yank him back down into reality and focus and stuff. So I think it's a good relationship. Those guys work well together, and they've been fun additions to the room.
And their personalities obviously being yin and yang. Have you seen that, whether examples in the locker room, on the field?
Oh yeah, all the time. Oh yeah. I mean, I can't talk about Bake too much. I'm gonna lose it here. But Bake's a kid at heart. He likes to have fun, which I encourage all the guys. I truly believe this. Just probably in life, like you have to be yourself. Like you can't be successful in what you do if you're not who you are, and we don't try to dictate personalities to anyone. I mean, everyone has to be serious about their job and do what they're supposed to do. But Bake is a little different than Raekwon, but sometimes Raekwon's tugging on him, like, hey man, like settle down and let's pay attention. And you see times when Raekwon's serious and Bake's trying to clown around on him a little bit to loosen him up. So it's a good back and forth those two have.
How do you feel about those two guys on the field Sunday?
We'll see. I feel good. I feel like they're going to be out there, so we'll find out.
You redesigned in the secondary when you moved Bobby and you moved Minka.
Mm-hmm.
Did it click instantly for those guys, or was there a little bit of a transition process?
Yeah, it's both. Bobby's played outside for us before. We started a few games at the end of last year there, and we always have been cross-training those guys. We don't like to just have like just an inside guy or just an outside guy or whatever. So he's got some of that work there. But yeah, as a unit, obviously that's kind of a different collection, and really a little bit with Mink. How he interacts with the inside guys too. A lot of times that nickel spot, like where Bobby was really good communicating in to Kiko and to Raekwon and whoever, like to work those games. A lot of times they're dealing with each other in terms of passing stuff off. So, that was just a new level of communication, on the inside part of things. And Bobby, for him to, see, to really get the depth of work that he's getting outside now to see some of those things, from sort of that perspective is, there's always growing pains when you do stuff like that. But, the one thing about both those players, about Bobby and Minka, I mean, they're both dedicated, like, students of the game. Like, they love ball. They're always in the building. They're always working at it. So, like, the approach, we had zero reservations about their approach to taking over those spots and doing what they're going to do to put their best foot forward on Sunday.
On offense, sometimes you hear the cliche, we'll go with the hot hand if there's two backs, or even some teams that run two quarterbacks in college. Do you have that idea with your defensive line, or is it, no, we're going to split these snaps, it doesn't matter who's playing well this game, our plan is to rotate?
Yes, I think that's the answer. We're going to waive our guys. Like, really our philosophy is we want those guys fresh. And the way we ask them to play in terms of chasing the ball and getting off and exploding and running and doing those things and playing with a relentless approach, that you can't ask a guy to do that for 75 snaps a game, no matter how hot he is or how good he is or all that stuff. So, credit to Chris Greer and Adam and those guys for building some depth there a little bit, that we feel comfortable with putting all those guys out on the field. And we're going to try to, just like I said, try to waive those guys as best we can. And we feel better about all those guys getting however many pitches they have, if it's 25, 35, 45, whatever it is, but having them at full speed than having to play 75 snaps and maybe not getting what we want for half of them.
But I assume that you would want your 18, is the right way to put it, but Cam and Quinn are your
Pretty good players.
Yeah, they're good players. You want to make sure they're on the field, the most important part of the game, too.
Yeah, I mean, I think Chris does a good job, like, managing the group. And it's hard. It's a hard thing to anticipate that stuff. I think actually, I got to get my brain straight here. The Baltimore game, I guess it was, when we had that long drive, we had that 16-play drive. The one they got the points on it, that they kicked the field goal at the end that we held them on. And even actually Adam had made a comment, like, we were fresh, we got to stop at the end because it was a 16-play drive, but all those guys were going about 2-3 snaps, getting out, getting the next group in. 2-3 more getting out, get the next group in, you know what I mean? And by the time we got down the red zone, you know, Adam made the comment like, hey, man, a lot of times we do that on offense, and they're so gassed by the time they get down there. You know, they've played a lot of snaps in a row that, you know, you can kind of knock them in and stuff, and we end up obviously, like, making a stand there and holding a field goal. So, I mean, that's the philosophy that if we do, you know, hopefully that's not, you know, the case a lot, but if we do get into longer drives that there's fresher bodies, and that when a critical situation comes in, those guys haven't been like playing for 20 snaps in a row and stuff like that. So it's hard. It's not easy to manage a game like that from, you know, from his perspective in terms of rotating that group in. I kind of leave that on him and make sure that, hey, you know, I'm not calling certain groups out there, that he's got to get a feel for the game situation and how he handles his group, and he does a really good job with that. So that'll be our plan, to keep all those guys fresh as best we can. Hopefully it's hot out this weekend.
You know, Bobby's going to end up being the guy on the outside. Do you anticipate Tankersley or McTire being the first guy to spell, you know, one of them if they need to?
Yeah, I don't know that we have any direct plans to doing that right now. You know, again, the part of it depends on who's active and as from a team-wide approach, you know, what Adam decides to do there. But I'm not sure that we really have any plans to, like, rotate guys in right now at this point.
You expect what from Xavier Howard?
I expect him to do his job to the best of his ability.
Come on.
That's what I expected of him. I mean, I don't listen. All our guys, I have high expectations for all our players. We have high standards in our room and what we expect from them. You know, X obviously has, you know, been a developing player and then sort of a on the rise player for us, and so I'm excited to see him play. But you know, it's like any of them. You start putting expectations on those guys in terms of, hey, how many picks you're going to get, or how many of this you're going to do, or what you're going to shut this guy down, and then they start, you know, trying to press the issue to me. You know, I don't want, hey, X, I want you to do this year and make the Pro Bowl and have 20 picks and shut this guy. Your guy never catches the ball. Then he starts pressing and getting outside the framework of what we're asking him to do. So I know it sounds sarcastic, but like, I want X to take every call that we send out there and execute that, and I think the best of his ability will be a pretty good result. So I don't want him to think, I have to get a pick this player, I have to knock a ball down this player, I have to shut this guy down this play. I want him to play the defense, and if he's as good as we think he is, those plays will come to him.
In the past, like after that New England game, did he feel like last year with the
Yes.
15 interceptions? Did he feel like
I wish.
like he had to replicate that week after week after week? Is that why?
I don't think so. You know, I mean, again, interceptions, I mean, they could not throw at him for a whole game. I mean, some of that's out of his world, out of his realm, out of his control. So, again, I don't think so. But again, we don't want to get into that game where we're pressing to make plays. We're trying to execute our defense. And again, if those guys that we feel are good players are in the right spots and doing the right thing, then the plays will come. You know what I mean? That'll happen. And so I'm cautious of telling guys, we want this, we need to do this, we need to run our calls and execute our defense. And sometimes there's calls that aren't designed for him to make a play. Somebody else's job to make that play, you know what I mean? So, and if he tries to make the play, then we're exposing something else. So he's got to just go play defense for us, and he'll be fine. His plays will come to him. If we're right about the type of player that he is, he'll make plenty of plays this season for us.
Matt, was there a time in meetings Friday and Saturday where you said, we need more than 5 linebackers, it's not enough?
Nope.
So 5 would seem like a low number, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, again, listen, the roster construction is, you know, we have meetings on that, and the way I look at it is this. Look, I'll voice my opinion to Adam and to Chris and to Mike and all those guys, and I let them know what I feel like, you know, who's earned a spot on this defense and who's going to help us as we move forward, and where we need depth and where we need whatever else. And again, those are team-wide decisions. And I tell our coaches that. I tell everybody that. Like, look, when those decisions are made, that's our team. I always like that, you know, that Hoosier's quote when he's got 4 guys and he says, my team's on the floor. You know, I mean, that's our team. And if it's 5 linebackers that we're going to play with, we're going to play with 5 linebackers, and we're going to try to go win some ball games with those 5 linebackers. So, go ahead. No, you're fine. I'm good. It's good. Cut me off.
We're seeing Ken. You can cut me back off while I'm asking.
Yeah, let's keep her all day.
Can't wait, but 2 pretty good seasons after the Achilles injury. I mean, well, those have already happened. I mean, what would it take you to not be sure about him at this point? Would he have to be like 50 years old, or I mean, are you just
Again, I know. I feel like I answer this question every. Yeah, I just I stopped looking at his age. I really, you know what I mean. It's irrelevant in that case for him. Like I just look what I see on the field. You know what I mean. So if no one in this room knew Cam Wake's story and you just were watching him, you wouldn't say he's, how old is he? 35. Whatever that is. You wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't, so at this point, like, my first year or so, you're marveling at it, and you're going, man, well, this guy coming off the Achilles. And when we first got here, he was rehabbing back into it that offseason when we first got hired, you know, and maybe that first year. But at this point, like, it's just Cam. That's who he is. And so until his play dictates that he's not capable of performing at an elite level, then I stopped wondering about it. I just accept that that's who he is, and you know, age is nothing but a number, whatever they say. So, you know, he's had a good camp for us. He's been performing well. Again, we feel pretty good about our guys up front and the way they've been rushing, and I'm looking forward to seeing Cam Wake play season number 10 season. Last one.
You mentioned
Final.
With Cam, how much has Robert helped him?
Well, yeah, all that. I mean, again, it's not just those two guys. We feel we got a lot of depth at the end position. And you know, obviously, if you don't, and you say you only have a Cam Wake as a threat, like, you see a lot of different protections over there. There are people chipping them. They're putting tight ends over there. They're doing a lot of things to try to slow him down. So obviously, the more threats you have to rush the passer, the less you can isolate one player. You know what I mean? So again, now you start getting the point. If Robert continues having some success, then now you're worried about, okay, how are we gonna block him? And then you forget about Cam Wake maybe for a day, you know, and that's the game you got to play. And you know, again, that's part of, you know, keeping those guys fresh and again, rolling that group and having all those guys throwing fastballs, play in and play out, and not being able to isolate a guy like that. Anytime you have paired up rushers, that obviously helps. It just balances out what an offense can do to protect because you've got threats from both sides.
Thank you.
Cool. That was easy. You all right, man? You quiet? You sick? All right.